of the soul's yearning for Hashem, and how it breaks out of the jail. Like he called it specifically, he said jail, Beit Kele, right, of the Beit HaMelech, of the house of the king. Again, fascinating Perush that the house of the king is negative, right? That it's the house of the king means the body, and the story here is how that happens, how we break out. And here we go, Moshe. So until now, he's talking about sort of the struggle of how he gets there, and Pasuk Tet really is going to be the prophecy itself. But before he gets to Pasuk Tet, we're here. Far behind, no? Okay, so this is like what we're reading now is the end of Pasuk Chet, the end of the first group of Aleph at Chet, and an intro for Pasuk Tet, which is it's going to spill over into next chapter, to the beginning of next chapter. Don't worry, we all have chovrot here waiting for us. Next chapter. Is that there? Yeah, there we go. We're going to spill over with the Malbim, and then we'll go back for Rashi. Beseder. Tov. So, if you guys remember, the Malbim says that this is all sort of an intro to Shlomo's dream that he has. Shlomo's dream that he has in Giv'on. I believe we have not yet seen it, right, inside. So maybe it's worth taking a look here. If you guys open up your Tanachim. Melachim Aleph. Chapter 6? Chapter 3. But yeah, Melachim Aleph. Oh, what, today?
Not today, but
Oh, you're up to Melachim Aleph?
Yeah.
So, it's Perek Gimel, Melachim Aleph, Perek Gimel, Pasuk Gimel.
Perek Gimel?
Okay. Gimel, it's really Gimel Hey, but we'll read the intro. Gimel, Melachim Aleph, Gimel. We good? Oh man, you have like Roman numerals there. Roman numerals are the hardest. So it says like this. You got here with us, Moshe? 1 Kings. Oh my gosh. No. 3. I. It's a very prideful chapter. I. 2. And then you have the chapter that needs medical help, right? IV. בסדר. ויאהב שלמה. ויאהב שלמה את אדוני ללכת בחוקות דוד אביו. רק בבמות ומזבח ומקטיר. So it says Shlomo loves Hashem walking in the path of David. The only thing he still does is he brings korbanot and bamot, which is still legitimate at this point. Or actually it's not really legitimate at this point. But whatever, it's a discussion. וילך המלך גבעונה. לזבוח שם. So he goes to Giv'on. Giv'on also, all these are like this area, Binyamin area. That's where the great altar was. Nice little day of sacrificing 1,000 korban. So this is what the Malbim was building. This whole thing is building up for this. Okay, this meeting. And in Giv'on, Hashem appears to Shlomo Bechalom halayla, in the dream. Vayomer Elohim sha'al ma eten lach. Ask what I should give you. Vayomer Shlomo, ata asita im avdecha David avi chesed gadol, kasher alach lefanecha be'emet u'b'tzedaka u'b'yishrat levav imach. Right, you did a great. You were very graceful to chesed gadol, kind, to David, as he walked before you in truth, in charity, in truth of heart or straightness of heart. And you kept for him this loyalty or this faithfulness, and you gave him a son, who is me, right? He's talking about himself. Tendo ben yoshev al kiso. It's Aya, right? Ve'ata Adonai Elohai, ata himlachta et avdecha tachat David avi. Now you've made me instead of David. V'anochi nar katon lo edat setuvo. I am a young lad. I don't know how to go in or go out. Now the bitui, the tzet lavo, we'll actually see in Malachim soon, is a term of leadership, right? We see Yeshua. That's what Moshe says when he says, Yeshua, atat tavi et ha'am. You go in front, you'll come back with them. This idea of like, it's really...
Spotlight.
What?
Being in the spotlight.
I don't think it's being in the spotlight as much. I think it's more taken from the world of shepherding, that you bring the flock in and you bring it out. It's this concept of going out with the sheep and you come back with the sheep. You have to be very responsible. You're coming in and out of the thing. I think it's from the world of shepherding. And this is what he's saying. So I don't know how to go in or out. I'm a king, but I'm young, and I don't know the right tools, the proper tools to be shepherding the people. Your servant is here within the people. Right? They're large people. It's a huge flock. How do I hit it? So Hashem, this is the request. Give me a hearing heart, listening heart, to judge your people, to understand between good and evil. Because who could judge your heavy people? This is good in Hashem's eyes. So Hashem says to him, the 3 things that a regular king usually would ask for. He says, you did not ask for that. You did not ask for long life or long reign. You did not ask for money and riches. You did not ask for the life of your enemies. You only asked to listen and hear judgment. I'm going to do as you ask. Very powerful pasuk, right? I'm giving you a smart, wise heart that before you won't be like that, and after you'll never be either. In other words, there won't be someone who comes up after you, right? It's a pasuk that sort of reminds us of Moshe Rabbeinu, right? Moshe Rabbeinu was the most humble of all the people in the world. There's this concept of all the people in the world. I'm also going to give you what you didn't ask for. Gam osher, gam kavod, with honor and riches. There's no one going to be like you all your days. And you'll also get longevity if you follow my rules. In other words, not everything he gets, right? In other words, when Hashem says 3 things that you didn't ask for, I'm going to give you anyway, almost. I'm not going to give you longevity unless you follow my rules. Anyway, so Shlomo wakes up and it was a dream. And he comes to Yerushalayim before the Aron and v'chulei. So this is, the Malbim says, this event is worthy of a book. It's worthy of writing Shir HaShirim. This is what Shir HaShirim is about, this event. That's what is happening. It's about this event, about another event we'll see, and about different and the movement from this event downwards. That's what we're going to see in the next chapter. Okay, how Shlomo descends from this heights. But this is the background for the chapter. What do you want to say?
I was going to say it's very interesting that David HaMelech, to my knowledge, never received prophecy.
David HaMelech, not like this.
Right. Even though he was accomplished so much in this.
You're right. David HaMelech never receives something like this. He never has a dream where Hashem talks to him. That's come quickly go through my mind. I don't think so. In Tehillim, obviously, he has some interesting.
But it seems like to become from his heart.
Nachon. It seems like it's more. It's more exactly more inspired writing than actual flat out prophecy. Where this is some kind of as flat out Hashem talks to him in a dream. He wakes up. It's okay. So it's exciting.
What does it mean, going in and going out? Did you say already?
I said that I think it's taken from the word of shepherding, of bringing the sheep. You go in with the flock and back with the flock. Okay, that's why it's letzet ve'lavo, to go out and come back. That concept is a shepherd concept, and that's we know that Hashem uses often the head of Am Yisrael is like a shepherd. Okay, ve'lo yeh am Hashem kitzon asher elem roeh. That's what Hashem said. That's what when Moshe asks for a leader for the people, he says, and they shouldn't be like a sheep without a shepherd, not like a flock without a shepherd. And that's the terminology that we in. Very, very interesting. That's why it's one of the most unique, or maybe one of the most special relationships of a leader and a people. How is a leader supposed to think about his people? Like what is he? He is their. You could put a lot of similes into it, right? Like, what is he? He's their commander in chief. He's their general. He's their. How does a leader view himself? And a leader viewing himself as a shepherd is a certain kind of view. We're not going to go into it now, but it fits obviously into Shir HaShirim very well. Very called the Ra'aya, right? The Dod and the Ra'aya. Ra'aya is Ro'ah, tzon, right? A female shepherdess. And we talked about the psukim, right? If you don't know where I am, it was this pasuk. Tzilach b'ikvei tzon, ur'iyed gdiotayich. That was this pasuk. I just talked about. So there's a lot of connections here that you could put together. This pasuk that we're on right now, pasuk chet, that's the pasuk where he says, if you don't know where I am, go follow the fox, follow the sheep, follow the goats. The Seder? Tov. All right, so all this is just an intro of the Ket and the Tanakh. Now the Malbim, if you guys go back to the Malbim where we were, he's going to say two really, really important things in my opinion. Now, one of them is sort of like pshat and works into the thing. The other one that he says, in my mind, is just astounding in itself. I'm not sure quite how much it's important in the context of Shir HaShirim, but in itself it's great, and I would like to bring it up just because it's really interesting. טוב, וכבר ביארנו במבוא המחברת כי השיר הזה הוסד עד המראה הראשון שנגלה השם לשלמה בגבעון בחלום הלילה. Right? We said this whole shir, this shir HaShirim is divided into 5 shirim. So this shir, this first one, is built on this, what we just read, the Chalom of Shlomo b'Givon. ויאמר שאל מה ייתן לך, and Hashem said to Shlomo, ask what you want. ושלמה ביקש לב מבין לשמוע משפט, להבין בין טוב ורע. This is exactly what we read. ויטב הדבר בעיני השם, כי שאל את הדבר הזה. And Hashem thought it was very proper, and he was very impressed that Shlomo asked that. ובוודאי, מצד ששאל הדבר הזה בחלומו, הוטב בעיני השם. כי הסכמה והמחשבה עולה על לב בחלום אינו מפעולת השכל והבחירה. רק כי אחר ששאל את הדבר בחלומו, בהכרח הוא משתדל במחשבה זאת תחילה ימים רבים בהקיץ. ודרש ושקד על זה להבין משפט. Says the Malbim, when you ask something in a dream, it's not a intellectual endeavor that happens in a dream. If you're asking this in a dream, it means this is what you've been striving for your whole life. In other words, when you're in a dream and you ask for something, that's what you asked for? He said, exactly. That's who you are. That's where you've been going. Therefore, this is, in a sense, a culmination of Shlomo's attempt to reach Hashem. This is what he wants. He wants to have this heart that hears Hashem. Okay, that hears the mishpat. Because the quality of his search for God, of his attempt to purify himself, of looking for what we call neshikot picha, right? Yishakeni meshikot, to be kissed by Hashem. This is the reason that he receives the prophecy, the prophecy bichal. Shnigla elav Elohim vayas et shelato, v'al ken terem yavo lesaper b'psukim aba'im. Minyan ha'mareh v'nevuah shitchabra al nefesh Shlomo im doda yitbarach. Right before they're going to talk about the actual connection, which is the next couple of psukim. Okay, and until now we've talked about sort of philosophically what happens. The next psukim that we're going to learn today are about mamash, the connection itself. But before he does that, ikdim lesaper b'shiro ech tchila ishtadla nefesh Shlomo lakir et Hashem l'dat drachav. Right. So before that, it talked about how much he really, really strived to get there. Okay. Now he says, though, that why are they talking about judgment? In other words, he's asking himself, sort of. In other words, if Shlomo, his whole point was just the prophetic experience itself, why are we going on judgment? Why is like judgment? Right? He asked for mishpat. He asked for lev, lavin, mishpat. I don't know if that would be the thing anyway. What would be the great connection to Hashem, or the great moment of connection to Hashem? to be able to maybe to understand Hashem's ways in the world, to understand why it's good, bad things happen to good people. Well, there are all kinds of things that we sort of would hope for that moment of clarity or that moment of thing. Dafka Shlomo is looking for mishpat. Mishpat meaning, I would say, righteous actions in the world. How we, not righteous is the wrong word. Proper. Mishpat.
Understanding art. Oh, mishpat.
No, mishpat. It's mishpat. It's judgment.
Proper judgment.
Proper and righteous judgment. That's really what it is. To do it right. To do things correctly. Now, in this case also, Shlomo may not mean as a judge, even though we'll see in this chapter that we just read, the next half of the chapter is the story of the kid that he wants to write, the cutting the kid in half. So it goes right into real judgment, not into ki'ilu judgment. But it seems that the request Shlomo has isn't just to be a judge, it's to properly put everything in its right place. Okay, that's sort of what a judge also has to do. It's give the right aspects. So he asks here, why dafka judgment? Is that like the pinnacle of meeting God? And here he says something which is, in my mind, really interesting about judgment. Okay, judgment, really judgment, like mishpat, but bichlal is understand. Look what he says. Ritzono lomar. You guys with me? And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines from the bottom, towards the beginning of the line, it says Reish Lamed. Ritzono lomar. Ba'asher kvar iskimu ha'mechokekim. Now he's going to talk into the philosophy of law. Is anyone here a lawyer? No. He goes into the philosophy. Ba'asher kvar iskimu ha'mechokekim. The lawmakers have all agreed. Shebe'echrach yimatzeh mishpat klali rashi. There has to be. I mean, this is again an assumption, an axiom. There has to be a supernal law. Supernal law, like a real essence of truth, I would say. Okay? Hu yeh peles shebo yishkelu hashoftim kol hanimusim hachelkiyim v'hapratim. That will be the peles. Peles is a level, right? A level. What's the thing that you put down and it? That's what it's called, right?
Scale?
No. It's a level like when you want to see that something's straight. Like you put it on and it has that bubble in the middle, and it.
Is that called level?
That's what it's called. I think it's called a level.
Yeah, okay.
Nowadays it's all electric. They are all stuff that can judge it. But for the past 5,000 years, that's how they did it, right? You would put something down, if the bubble's in the middle, then it's. So they said there has to be a essential righteousness, sort of, or judgment, proper judgment, tzedek. That from it, all judges deal with the partial law that they're dealing with. In other words, every judge, when he stands before a case, it's a particular case. That's what it is in chelki, okay? Prati v'chelki, a partial, specific. Every case you have you're dealing with a specific case in a certain atmosphere, in a specific circumstances. How do you get proper judgment there? In other words, you could always be so affected by what's happening, and you may be calling into play things that are superfluous to the real case, and it's not really the important parts of the things. It's not essential to make so confused. As a judge, in a sense, has to go up above the specific case he's in and draw down from the essential truth the proper way to react to this specific case he's in. You can't do it from the specific case you're in. You have to touch upon a real eternal truth. Okay? That no one could find this level. Now they're all looking for the level to be able to do it properly. Everyone's searching for this level. They agree that real judgment is only for God. Only God can be the judge. Only He really knows the essential truth that will be properly brought out into reality by the judge. Only God. Mishpat le'Elohimu. The mishpat there's a pasuk from Tehillim. Mishpat le'Elohimu. Judgment is to God. What do you mean judgment is to God? It's the most human thing in the world. No. What he's saying here, judgment in its essence is prophecy. That's really what he says. It's a fascinating thing. Ki ba'asher hu ha'mechokek ha'elyon v'atfuna kolelet. He is the supernal lawgiver, and the general understanding, the proper understanding. Im ken mekor ha'mishpat v'shorsho hu etzel shorshei ha'shorashim adon ha'kol yitbarach. The root of all judgment is by the root of all roots, who is Hashem. Therefore, when Shlomo is meeting Hashem and the prophecy, he's asking for the root of judgment. And David HaMelech in Tehillim says, Mishpatecha lemelech ten. It's a request that, that's what he says. In Perek Ayin Bet, which is the chapter that deals with Shlomo HaMelech, in all of Tehillim, there's not that much about Shlomo HaMelech. But Ayin Bet is Ayin Bet, if I remember correctly, 72. That's the chapter that deals with Shlomo HaMelech. Okay? And one of the psukim there is Mishpatecha lemelech ten. Give your judgment to the king. That's mamash what it says. Hirak me'elokei amishpat. Nilmad ladat peres umoznei mishpat Hashem. Only through the God of judgment can we know the proper level, how you do judgment in the world. And how will we know this? We follow his paths and his ways and the way he rules the world. Okay? ולכן הקדים להציע, כי טרם נגלה השם לשלמה מדבר בחזון, שסופר מנשוסתי ברכבי פרעה, ולך דרש שלמה ושקד לדעת דרכי השם משפטיו והנהגת עולמו. Before Hashem actually appears to Shlomo and speaks to him in the dream, b'chazon, they tell us, and like we're about to see in the next pasuk, we're about to see in Bemet, Shlomo was really attempting to go the ways of Hashem and his laws. What Shlomo is searching for, he's like searching for the holy grail of judges. What is the holy grail of judges? Supreme and eternal truth. Supreme and eternal truth is only in a place where you break through reality, in a sense. Reality is always specific, as he said a bunch of times already. It's always partial. And you can't judge partially. You have to be, you can't judge from the partial element, from the specifics. You have to judge from the ultimate truth. So in a sense, Rabbi is putting together prophecy and judgment. This is really interesting. This idea of how all the mechokikim, all the lawmakers admit, is what he says. I don't know if it's true, and that's why I'm not a philosophy of law. I don't really know. Because everyone knows there's got to be some kind of rock that you lean on that leads you to make your decisions. In other words, you have to have basic truths to be able to judge. Basic axiom truth, fundamental justifications or truths in the world. Be'emet, a judge, right? A judge who judges someone, who says something. Why? In a world of relativism that we live in now, be'emet, someone could come and say, why? No, I don't agree. I'm like, why do you think that? Nachon, I shot him, but beseder, it was fun for me. I enjoyed it. Why is my enjoyment more important than his, less important than his life? Or more important than his life? I was having a good time. And so he died. So what makes his life more important than my enjoyment in a very bote way, right? At some point, you're going to have to say there is an eternal basis that says life is holy, life is essential. Otherwise, why? Black lives matter, white lives matter, other people matter. It's the question. That's sort of the statement. They're saying that you don't have that. I think that's what the basic statement was. There's a relativism in value here that doesn't exist, even though I think they're basing it on relativism. Be'emet, it's be'emet a problem. How can a judge with all real conviction give someone lashes? Who are you to give someone lashes? There are all kinds of questions that once you don't have an eternal truth, it sort of reminds us of what we just saw in the last parshas of getting to Avimelech, right? When they come there as Plishtim, not surprisingly, then both Avraham and Yitzchak are fearful to say that They're married to the woman they come into Eretz Plishtim with, Yitzchak and Rivka and Avram and Sarah. They're afraid. Why not? And Yirat Elohim b'makom hazeh. There's no fear of God in this place. I don't know what you're going to do. That basically says, I don't know what you will do to me. I don't know how your judge system will work without this eternal truth. Now, again, this is a whole amazing discussion to have, bli kesher to Shir HaShirim. But here, the Malbim sort of puts them together. Why does he put them together? Because the Malbim, remember, his backstory of Shir HaShirim is this event of Shlomo asking for judgment. So he's saying, what does that have to do? What does judgment have to do with Shir HaShirim, with prophecy? We're only talking about the prophetic experience. So he says there's a parallel between the prophetic experience and the judgmental experience. They're actually sort of the same place. They're above the world. They're outside of the world as we know it. They are eternal. I don't know enough against philosophy either, but I believe these are like Platonic ideas of the idea that truth in its essential form is above reality. Reality is sort of like a projection of the eternal truth that exists in the world, and we could only see partial parts of it. We see how the things are sort of structured in our world, but really the essential thing itself is a spiritual concept. Right? I think he talked about a chair or a table or a horse. There is a horse as we see it, and there's the supernal horse. There's the real idea of a horse. That is something that each actual horse that we see here is a type of that. It's sort of a dim shadow of the real horse it is. I'm just using an example of things. But I think it's sort of what the Malbim is playing off also. In other words, judgment in its essential form is the place that all judgment comes from. If you don't know that, and if you're not connected to the one up there, you're going to be reading things from the bottom up instead of from the top down. You're reading it from what you have, your little abilities from what you have. But when you're connected to the real truth, then when you get to the case, you'll be able to see it clearly, in a sense. You'll be able to see it as it is. So judgment, I just thought this was fascinating, especially in our day and age when we don't remember it anymore. But 2 months ago, this is the only thing Medinat Yisrael was talking about was the system, the judgment system here, and the courts and how these things work. That's what they were arguing about, right? The Mapecha, the Reforma Mishpatit, right? The Reforma Mishpatit. The judicial reform, right? That we're talking about. Everyone was talking about this. Be'emet, part of it is this discussion, like who are you, and who can decide what's right and what's wrong. It's really what they were talking about. Okay.
If I understand correctly, Shlomo was praying for getting this wisdom to judge righteously, right? Which, if I understand correctly, that only on the level of Nebuah one can do that. Otherwise, you're just, because of the reality that we live in, you're missing always constantly something
Right.
from the truth.
Right.
And by him actually like judging with Nebuah, he would bring down the supernal true judgment on earth, which is I try to explain this. Wait, I've had times to translate this. Wait. But
Say it in German.
Here's the thing. No, in German, no one knows. Here's the thing. And the whole function of this world is basically that it is hidden, right? It implies, Olam implies that it's hidden, like there's something missing. The complete truth cannot be completely revealed on the earth. And by him bringing down this clear nevuah to judge correctly would break this kind of.
Your statement that the world is missing, that Olam is He'elem, that it's something that's hidden, is in the Malbim's view a tragedy.
Right.
It's a tragedy. So the judges are trying to break through that tragedy. That's what they're trying to do. That's in one area. Okay, in one area of judgment, that's what it would be. But a prophet, in a sense, what is a prophet? A prophet is someone who breaks that reality. It's very clear, at least here in the Malbim, that prophecy is the point. That's where we're going. That's what we want to try to be. Again, he's reading the Kuzari. The Kuzari talks about the prophetic experience as, right, when he puts up the levels of humanity, right, or of the creation, right. He has Domem Tzomech Chai, Medaber, and Israel. The way he defines Israel as being a whole nother level is the ability to prophecy. That's really the essential difference. And the concept that the soul can break out of the reality we're in. Now, everyone else, humanity, has its inspiration, has its thing, but it can't break out of this, exactly what the Bible is talking about. So this, in the Malbim's view, is this is like the ultimate. This is the ultimate. We're trying to break through. Yeah, we're trying to break through the hiddenness of the world, and we're trying to reveal it, to reveal God's will. Can. And this yeshiva should be a yeshiva for prophecy. No, but I'm not joking. Sometimes I also like, wow, what's the first yeshiva we ever hear about? Who's the first yeshiva? That's not in my Tanakh. But it is hidden. Well, all right, what they do? Who goes to Yeshivat Shem Ve'ever in the last week's parsha? Last week's parsha. 2 weeks ago. Sorry, 2 weeks ago. No. Rivka goes there. Why does she go there? Talerech lidrosh et Hashem. She's the only one that says it. Mamash. The other ones are midrash, but she goes to search God. She goes to search God, right? She's having, right, the kids are having fun in her stomach, and she wants to go understand what's going on. But Terech Yidosh Hashem. So Rashi says there, where'd she go? The Beit Midrash of Shem. That's where she went. The Beit Midrash of Shem, to figure out what's going on there. So what did they do in the Beit Midrash? But he read their Shulchan Aruch. What did he do there in the Beit Midrash? He told her a prophecy. That's what he says to her. He says, Shnei goyim bevitnech, u'shnei lu'umim mima'ich yiparedu. So even there, even though I didn't want to go, that wasn't my idea of where the first Beit Midrash is, but even in what you guys are saying, that's the Beit Midrash, the only thing we really know about that Beit Midrash was prophecy. That's what happened there. Okay? But where else do we see Beit Midrash? We see the Bnei Nevim. That's where you see it, Ramet. When you see students around the master, there are a couple places. Where is it? Yoshua, and when all the people that Moshe takes are having prophecy, Machon, the 70 Zkanim, who he gathers, and then and that's that they have prophecy. It's a prophetic event. Har Sinai, the Torah was given in a prophetic event. Har Sinai itself, Moshe Rabbeinu with Hashem, it's a prophetic event. And all the schools we'll see later. We don't see many schools in the Pshat. It's going to happen in Melachim, Beikar, Elisha. And Shmuel, you have a Lakat Nevi'im, you have a group of Nevi'im. In other words, the only time you ever see schools, they were schools of prophecy. You never see anywhere schools of Torah, the Tanakh. Again, they're all schools of prophecy. And in Elisha, with Elisha, you see it the most powerfully. They mash as a school. They come and they say, there's no room, you don't have enough funds, there aren't enough rooms for the new students. Sounds like anywhere you guys know, right? There's not enough food for them. They have it at one point. They come with, wow, here's David's laughing here. I don't know why you're laughing, David. The rooms and the food, I don't understand. Well, what does that have to do with anything we know? But that's what they're discussing there, because there's so many Bnei Nevi'im there. What? Where is it? You want to see it? It's in Melachim Bet somewhere. I don't remember exactly where. Is that there? It's in Melachim Bet there. But afterwards, remind you where it is. So there are two different stories that we don't have enough room, and they come with food for the people. And is it going to be enough? So these are aspects. It's all prophecy. That's what they're. The Jewish learning session was how to be a prophet. That's what it is. The Bnei Nevim, this Musag, the children of Nevim, they weren't the children of Nevim. They were schools. They were children of school. That's what they were trying to do. Oh, how do you teach Nevuah? That's a great question. How do you teach?
I know Rambam says you have to learn everything.
That's a great question. Who teaches that nowadays? That's a very good question. So maybe in a Kabbalah school, maybe in the Yeshivot HaMekubalim. That's sort of what they're doing.
Rambam says you have to learn everything and then maybe you get it.
The Rambam says prophecy only falls on someone who is a huge Talmid Chacham, is strong, is rich, is what? I don't know. I thought we don't have many prophets around right now. Maybe we should change our class. I have to go to school first.
Yeah, I think that's it.
No patience, son. No patience. Which one is this?
Bet, chapter 4, I think it is in Pasuk 38.
Again, food for the starving prophets. Yosef loves this, right? Starving means you're a starving student who have barakas and dry barakas and a piece of cucumber to eat for his supper. One egg only, and if you take another one, you get a fork in your hand. But see, you guys are continuing a nice masoret of Am Yisrael, of tradition. Maybe you should put it up here in the Machon here, and like this. But this concept, and that's where we would know. So I'm saying, where do we know prophecy? Dafka, it may be the only place that they learned. It was the only thing they were striving to do. In other words, that was when someone tried to learn something, they tried to learn how to be prophets. That's what it seems like in the Tanakh. I'm saying, we see.
That's the highest level you can have to connect with God.
Nachon. And in a sense, what we're trying to do is reveal the hidden. The world is a game, but it's not supposed to be that way. It is that way, or it's supposed to be that way so that we reveal it. Our job here in the world is to, what is our dude, right? What is our job here in the world? To reveal God. In other words, Chassidut, it's clear, and by the way, Chassidut, that met what they attempt to do, in essence, is try to reveal God. That's what you're trying to do. See how Hashem plays. Now you can see it. It's on every level. It's conceptual. It's physical. Things that happen to me. How is this what Hashem wants? How is this what Hashem is doing? That, in a sense, is a prophecy b'katan. Right? It's saying Hashem is revealing Himself here in the world. Sometimes you understand it through your mind. Sometimes you understand it through your heart. These are all movements that happen in the world. Now, once again, what lesson? We're on the 7th lesson here, and we just did an intro to what we were supposed to learn today. Oh, Hashem. But it's clearly where the Malbim is going. Okay? Clearly, the Malbim, again, all of Shir HaShirim, that's what it is. Shir HaShirim is a song to prophecy. It's an ode to prophecy, and he's developing this out. So this little point, I just thought it was fascinating. For me, I had never put the two together. I had never put the two together. Judgment and prophecy seem to me two completely different realms. But he's right. There are a lot of psukim that talk about it. Mishpat le'Elohim here, Elohim mishpatecha le'melechten. Some connection between God and judgment. You're like, what does God have to do with judgment? But in his what?
God is the ultimate judge. So.
For sure, Hashem is a judge also, but is that a practical statement? In other words, it's like a general statement. It's like a metaphoric statement. God is judge, we're judges, He's judges. Here they're saying it's not metaphorical. It's really is. You, the judge, have to connect to the highest level of being, the essential level, to be able to judge properly. Otherwise, you'll be limited in your judgment ability. Seder?
I just want to say one thing. I don't
Go
want to
ahead.
get too off course, but like Yaakov and this, where we are in the parsha and truth and like, I don't know, if God is the one.
But last week you said for this week's also.
He's here. He's in the parsha. I don't
Okay,
know.
and he's in the parsha.
I don't understand it, but like, God. If God is the ultimate judge and only prophets, like there's a connection between prophecy and judgment. It's hard to judge in the world.
Very hard.
Yeah.
I'm a scheme. I think it's right. Very, very, very hard to judge in the world. And the way to do it here, sort of, Shlomo has this, and you strive. That's sort of what it is. Shlomo, that's what he says here. Shlomo is striving all his life to do this. I don't know how young he was, how much of his life there is. There he says, I'm a nar katan, I'm a young man. We said nar.
We learned that he was 12 years old.
No, again, but Nar is a novice, though. We have to remember. Okay, Nar isn't necessarily an age-wise. It's a novice. So he could be right, unexperienced. So that's exactly what he is. He's unexperienced. But his attempt is that's how it starts. You just have to try, and then you have a breakthrough. That's sort of what happens here. He's trying, and then he goes to sleep with a dream, and Hashem appears to him and talks to him about the things he's been striving to do his whole life, and then it's the thing. Now again, here the Malbim is not going to come back to this, by the way. At least in the next two chapters, he doesn't really go back to the judgment. He's not going to mention it at all. So it's not the point, says the Malbim, because what Shlomo is writing Shir HaShirim about isn't about being a judge. He's talking about the actual prophetic experience itself. That's what interests him in the sense. That's what the book's about. It's about this breaking out of the limitations of human reality existence. Judgment is one part of that. Tov. Yalla. Let's just read the pasuk, okay? We'll read the pasuk. Pasuk tet. In Shir HaShirim. Shir HaShirim Aleph tet. L'susati b'richvei paro dimiti chayati. Okay, now we said this is a funny one, right? L'susati b'richvei paro dimiti chayati. As a horse in the chariots of Paro, I have likened you, my beloved. Okay? Now, wait, who's the sus and who's the richvei paro and what's going on here? So here the Malbim has a pretty interesting perush. He says the susati b'richvei paro dimiti. You have to break it into three parts. The susati, okay? B'richvei paro dimiti. So obviously Paro is probably not going to be the positive part of this pasuk, right? But l'susati, my horse, that is a positive thing. Okay, so there's my horse, there's richvei paro, and I likened you, my beloved. So there's going to be a movement here between what Hashem says is my horse, what I want, and lumat richvei paro. And I'll add on another thing that the main metaphor here is the driver of Paro. There's a driver. Okay, this is the richvei paro. Richvei paro are the chariots of Paro. A chariot has horses who are pulling it and has a driver. That's sort of how it works. Now, the question we're going to have in this pasuk is who's driving? That's Betzim. Who is driving the powers that be? There are the bestial powers of man. Okay, the bestial abilities, as we talked about many times, right? The Bnot Yerushalayim, the powers of the body. The question is who's in charge, all right? Says the Malbim here. L'susati, al pi hasimanim asher natan Hashem lanefesh Shlomo, ech takir drachav v'taskil b'amitato, zachta lemar'ei nevuah. After, right, according to the simanim that Hashem gave to the soul, how we could know Hashem and see His truth, it zachta, it merited a mar'ei nevuah. V'diber elav Hashem begivon. This is what happened when they saw each other. This is when they touched. When the prophecy happened, this is what the soul and Hashem spoke to. Okay, the next, most of what he's going to talk about in the next couple of psukim is going to be the connect of godliness in the soul and godliness outside, and like the godliness in the transcendent God and immanent God, but even more than regular immanent God in man's soul. Okay, that's what's happening. There's going to be mamash a yichud, right? The shem yichud kuchabrichu shchinte. This concept of connect between parts of God. I say, even though you can't say that, but different elements of God's presentation. That's really what he's going to talk about. This pasuk, though, is the beginning of that. Okay, Elohim ro'eh ki nefesh Shlomo kibla tachshitim min hagvia. שהתחברה עמו, שבואר בפסוק שאחרי זה. אומר הוא עליה, רעייתי, דמיתיך לסוסתי ברכבי פרו. Okay, so this is Hashem sees that Shlomo, in this case, or whatever, the man, has achieved the mastery over his urges. He is the master over his bodily functions. He said, as long as you're in jail and you are being led and moved by your lust, your imagination, your yetzer hara, or any other word we could use for our bodily or lower selves, I would say, you're inherently not going to be able to go higher. But once you rule them and you lead them, then Hashem says, oh, this guy I could deal with. All right, this guy I can have a connection with. The susati, you're my horse, b'richvei paro. If you can lead over richvei paro, okay, this is how it is. It's my horse. Even though the paro, right? The evil parts of are trying to take control. Are trying to take control and lead the bodily functions, and that's the regular case when the chariot's being led by the Yetzer Hara, I would say. In this case, it's Susati. You're my horses, okay? You're being led by a higher level, okay? It's my horse. And he quotes here the Zohar, who has a Susya Kadisha. He calls it the holy horse. Lakacha Susya Elohit. Let's look at the bottom, the third line from the bottom, right in the middle. He says, you guys see that? You see, V'amelech Shlomo shu hayetzer hamolich b'merkavto lakacha Susya ha'Elohit. It's a great statement. The godly, the supernal horse. It's funny, I mentioned a horse before when we were talking about Plato, right? I didn't think about it before. But here's lakacha Susya Elohit v'ya'esra. He ties it to Richvei Paro. שתמשוך את הרכב אל מקום אשר יש שם רוח סוסי פרעה ללכת. והוא כי רצה שהנפש האלוהית תהיה נמשכת אחרי הנהגת הכות החומר ברכבו ופרשיו, even though the lower, I would call the animal soul for our Chabadnikim, the animal soul who wants to lead the body or lead you in a certain way, Hashem says, no, I want the animal urges to be led by the nefesh, by the soul. That movement. Once that's done, then we're talking. Okay, this is how the Malbim plays out. In other words, this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to have everything in you, in your human sort of existence, being led by the godly thoughts or the godly emotions. Soul, in that sense, but it's Elohit. It's a godly. Whatever. So that's what happens, and that's why we can start moving ahead. Okay, that's why now the prophetic meeting can happen, because you're in control, you're ruling this. Okay. I just want to point out one more thing that he mentions here in passing. He says, if you take a look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows up. Hia susya. You see it? Right in the middle of the line. In the middle of the line, five lines up. Hia susya shel rochev ba'aravot. Rochev ba'aravot. Hashem is called the one who rides in aravot. Aravot is one of the shamayim, one of the levels of shamayim. Rochev ba'aravot. Asher hi muchenet limshoch et hamerkava ktana shehi gviat shlomo. It is proper. The soul, in this sense, can the holy horse that can lead the bodily functions. El atzad sheyanhig harochev ha'elyon et hamerkava gdola shehi hamitzut haklalit. Says the Malbim here, there's a parallel between when man rules himself and the way Hashem rules the world. There's the Merkava Gdola and the Merkava Ktana, the Big Dipper and the Little Dipper. I'm kidding. There's the big chariot and the little chariot. Isn't it one of the things, the chariot? It's called the Nachon?
The Dipper?
The Dipper, yeah, the Dipper.
Constellation?
Yeah, it's also called the chariot, Nachon? No? The bear, the great bear, the little bear.
Yeah.
I think it has like different, you know what I'm talking about? The constellations of stars. Right? I think it may also be the chariot. I think that's one of the things. Right, Nachon. So that's mamash what he's talking about. He's talking about here. He says, Sheniga rochev al-yon ta merkava hagdola. Yesh ta merkava ktana. The merkava ktana is your body. And there it becomes a rider. The forces of your life become a chariot for the appearance of the supernal soul. So too, when you do that, it allows the world to be led that way. Now he just throws this out in half a sentence here. Remember this, because he's going to go back to this at much more depth. Okay, we're going to see that soon.
I remember,
see at some point.
Hashem prays that he doesn't release his wrath. So it's
that he's controlling it in a sense.
That he doesn't destroy the world.
Yeah, fair. That he holds on to it. So maybe it may be, but here the Malbim is interconnecting how Hashem relates to our reality through how we control our body. there is apparently an interconnection this, which makes it fascinating, okay?
What is the Merkava Gedola?
The Kavod is how Hashem rules all of the world. In other words, how Hashem appears in the world. Okay? If he's going to talk about it, it's called Hashgacha. This is the providence. He's going to talk about the other two levels of providence. How there's providence through the regular ways, and there's providence where Hashem is mamash mofia. It was very clear that he's there. Okay? And he's going to tie them together. In other words, man's ability, what we do here, is what allows, or the way Hashem works, that's how he presents himself. I just want to mention, he's saying it here, he just sort of throws it out, because he's talking about the rider, okay, who's in control. He's going to go back to it. Okay. Now look at the next two psukim, okay? And he says like this. And again, and we're not going to read this inside, I'm going to say it outside, but he goes like this. Navu lechayayich batorim, savarech bacharuzim. Your cheeks are pretty in torim. Now, torim isn't clear what it is exactly, but it could mean doves, right? Like a dove, a tor, and ben yonah. These are kinds of animals. But it could also mean rose. Lamod betor, right? Get in line, right? Savarech b'charuzim. Your neck is pretty in charuzim. Charuzim are beads. Okay, says the Malbim. Okay, that man, when he was still in bodily form, he's pretty, he's great, but he's limited. Okay, he's limited. These jewelry that sort of seems to be referencing, right? Your cheeks are pretty and your neck is pretty, and through torim or through charuzim. These are the jewelry that's on you, that adorns you, that makes you pretty. You're pretty, but. And the next pasuk, let's just read it to see what the but is going to be. When he says, Turei zahav na'aselach im nikudot hakasef. Turei zahav we will do for you with nikudot hakasef. He's going to nikudot hakasef, he's going to say that's the essential, that's what we're looking for. Nikudot hakasef, the spots of gold, or the points of silver, dafka silver, as opposed to zahav, as opposed to gold. It says that's what we're going for. That's like the most important thing. The other things are pretty nice, but we're going for nikudot hakasef. All right? What is the movement, and how does these things shift? So I'm going to say this outside pretty much, okay? What he says here. So he says, when the body is still in control, then the mind conceives everything through the four measures of measurements. He says, right? Eichut, quality, kamut, quantity, zman umakom, time and space.
When the mind is in control?
When you're still in the bodily functions, when you're still there, when you haven't yet left body to prophecy levels, you're still attaining Hashem's knowledge of the world, understanding who Hashem is. When you're constrained, you understand everything through again, these four elements, sort of textures of reality: time, space, quality, and quantity. These are the ways you feel reality. Now it's wonderful, and you could get to great understandings and great insights into Hashem. But you're still using your mind, which is limited into these four realms. Okay, so it's sort of like the dimensions, right? How many dimensions can man think in his mind? 3-dimensional, 4-dimensional, 5-dimensional, wherever you could get to. I don't know what we're up to now, but whatever dimensions, you're still in dimensions. It's still relative to other things that you see. The Malbim here is talking philosophy, and he says the real wording of this, or the way you explain this dimensional thinking, is through words, through speech. Lechayayich, navu lechayayich. He says, why is he talking about cheeks? Because cheeks are what we move when we speak. Okay, he's talking about the words, the attainment of God through words. Through explanations, through comprehension, which comprehension only happens when you can spell out what you understood, right? That's a basic philosophy, is that if I can't explain it, then it's not it. Said there, then it's the way word, the logos, right, is the basic for the attainment of the world, of understanding the world. The Malbim says it's one way. It's sort of like the most elevated of the limits. It's still limited. Rav Kook has some great ta'im where he talks about how frustrated he is in the world of words, how words are so limiting, and that he's trying to give over what in essence is almost a prophetic experience, that he can't. He's so frustrated at the words. He talks about the restraints of words, the restraints of language. Even though Rav Kook was very talented in writing and very talented in his words, he feels it as a jail almost. And this mamash is what he's referring to here, the Malbim. He's talking about, again, it's amazing, right? You hear an amazing poem or amazing, wow, it's so inspiring. Now we're talking about it from the other way, looking from the top down. Not even inspiring, it's so limited. Even if you say an amazing metaphor or amazing poetic description, it's still using words. It's not the essence of the thing itself. It's talking about it. We don't want to talk about it, we want it to be the thing itself. So he says, even though you're pretty in your words, and even pretty in your savarech b'charuzim, right? The second thing is how logic is worked. How is the word of logic, of understanding, of comprehension done? So words are the vehicle where it's done or conveyed, but the way logic works is by taking different axioms or different things you've learned and putting them together. This is, he says, beads. This is the beads, charuzim, right? Tzarech b'charuzim. The beads are also, that may be even deeper understanding, comprehension. The words are the vehicle where we portray what we understand, but understanding itself is a deeper thing, comes from your neck, says the Malbim. Your neck, which is a deeper level than your cheeks, which is a more inherent, more connection to yourself. Again, this is very interesting, the Malbim's Perush here. And he says that's another level that is also limited. In other words, by the fact that you have to take X and Y and put them together and make Z, okay, and which is a marvelous way of doing things, right? Man is amazing how he understands this and he understands this and he puts them together and makes a third element, and then from that he could figure something else out. Amazing. The whole Gemara, a lot of it is using these tools of understanding how. So he says all these things are astoundingly great. Yet, there's still, these are like the levels of, it's not there yet. But all these is sort of what we would call learning Torah. You can go on cold this time, David, okay? Yes. Thank you. These are things that are nice, navu. He says these are pretty, and I'm happy you're there. But we're still not at the point we want to get to. What is the point we want to get to? He says, I want to get to, he says, look at Yud Aleph. Okay, look at the Malbim in Yud Aleph. So, next Yud Aleph. Torei zahav na'aselach im nikudot hakesef. Says, B'hiyotech b'me'una Elohei kedem. When you were in Shamayim, sort of. Terem nitzbadeta el richvei par Shlomo. Before you were put into the world of driving the body. Lo hayalecha rak nikudot hakesef. You only had nikudot hakesef. Oh, what's so great about nikudot hakesef? What's nikudot hakesef? Retzono lomar she'az lo haya nimtza b'askalata lo kamut v'lo ichut. At that point, revelation wasn't quality and wasn't quantity. Ki hanikuda handasit eina tofeset makom ubilti mitchaleket. Who here is a math major? Good. I'm happy with math majors here. The dot. Does it take up space in the world? In other words, the point, nikudot hakesef, he says, the point of kesef, he calls kesef is silver. So he says silver like white. White is a color. Does it have a color, white? White is all colors, or the absence of all colors, right? It's some kind, right? It's all colors, as they usually say, right? It's, in other words, it's some kind of, it sort of breaks out of colors in a sense. The colors have gvanim, have shades. And shades, you're talking about dimensions. The white in itself is above shades in a sense. White, the color white. Nikudot kesef. He uses kesef. He says is hinting to white. I don't think he talks about when he talks about Lavan. Okay. But one second. He's going to talk about, and so he said Nukudot HaKesef. There are two elements in this definition that Shlomo is saying, that both are what we're talking about now, about the actual prophetic experience. Okay. The actual prophetic experience doesn't work through logos, doesn't work through words, it doesn't work through logic, it doesn't work through the regular human attainment. It happens from before. It's like a primordial, right?
Yeah, primordial.
Primordial experience. It's before you've been divided up into different feelings and different elements. It's a experience as is. This is what the Malbim is going for the prophetic experience. This is what happens. Nikudot HaKesef is the experience of the thing as it is, and it boom, kacha, without space in the dimensions, and without color in the gvanim. What do we say, gvanim? Shades. Okay. So that's as opposed to gold, which is a red tint that has colors. So he says, so all these things, he says, you've reached, in a sense, this is what Hashem is saying to the soul. You, Shlomo, have reached the level of everything else. Not Nikudot HaKesef yet, okay? In other words, Hashem approaching the soul, it says, listen, you've gotten to here. You've gotten to the top of the top. You're beautiful in your haruzim. You're beautiful in your lechayim, your speech. Amazing, Shlomo. Let's clap for Shlomo HaMelech. That's what Hashem is doing. Thank you. That is what Hashem is doing for saying to Shlomo. But now it's time to go into a new phase. The new phase is Nikudot HaKesef. Now I'm going to reveal to you something that doesn't work through the regular paths of knowledge, and it jumps into a elevated state that does not need the tools that regular man uses. Okay, and this again is an experience, I believe, that is somewhat talked about when people talk about spiritual experiences or as transcendental experiences. There's something that goes beyond what you can really see, you can really say, or you can really. I can't tell you what it was. I can't tell you. I was there, but I can't tell you what it was. It was the first Rabbi Nachman in Sichot Haran, right? Rak ani yadati. Only I knew. It says you can't even tell yourself what you experienced, because once you start telling yourself, you're using words, and there's something about man's experience of Hashem that is intransmutable. I can't tell you what it is, because the minute I start telling you, I lost it. I could do amazing metaphors and poetry about what it was, but it's all a pale shade or a pale presentation of what really happened there. What really happened there is intransmutable. I can't tell you.
Isn't that what we do every day? Like by learning Torah and teaching Torah, we just try to describe.
So what he would say, and he's going to say it later, that Torah is being one of the tools, the Torah brings you to the point of Nikudot HaKesef. That is the ultimate in understanding Hashem's ways, and getting there is to use these tools to get there. But it's not prophecy. In other words, again, you have to remember, the Malbim is breaking out of regular day-to-day Jewish living. Okay, he's not Loma Spiklo. It's not enough for him. He's saying there's an above that. So even if you could use your mind learning Torah, that is refining and using the Rechvei Shlomo, the tools of Shlomo, the tools of the body for the best way you could possibly do. Once you reach the ultimate there, then maybe you'll get prophecy. That's where you'll be. If I'm too busy thinking about baseball, or I don't know, people think about it. Some people I've told like sports a lot, and they think about these things, and so your mind's going to be limited to be using things that are very low. There's no way you'll be able to jump from there into into Nikudot HaKasef, into the place where the ultimate experience is. If your mind is refined in the most finest, beautiful, spiritual elements of this world, then there's a chance of the moving on into the next realm. So let's go on to Yud Bet. Okay, so Yud Bet.
Gotta do my Sterling impression. Wow, Rabbi, wow.
Ad she'amelech b'mesibo nirdi natan recho. Okay, so until ad she, right in pasuk Yud Bet. Ad she'amelech b'mesibo nirdi natan recho. Even when ad she, I get to the point where even when the powers of the body, right? Ad she'amelech b'mesibo, the king in his party, the king in his and remember, the king is a bad guy in Shir HaShirim for this. The king is a bad guy. He's not Melech Malchei Amlachim, which you would sort of think, right? It's not like Megillat Esther. We say every time he says Amelech is Melech Malchei Amlachim. Here, the Malchim says Afuch. Here, the king is the bad guy. All right? Until the powers of the spirit, even when the powers of the spirit, I still smell him. Remember that the spirit, the smell is Hashem appearance there. That's what we want to get to. Okay,
What is
near D is a smell of besamim, of besamim.
Yeah.
Thank you. Everyone knows what I'm talking about. He said it before. He brought it before also, but he can't. About Shema, what were you saying?
No, yeah, we say it in the Diktorot.
Ner v'kerkom, right? Ner v'kerkom. Nachon. Okay, so he says, Da. Tshuvat HaNefesh, I'm reading Yud Bet here, it's a short one. You guys see the Malbim in Yud Bet? Da. The Tshuvat HaNefesh, the soul answers Hashem, where Hashem said, you've reached almost there, right? Hashem said, you're right there, you're done, you're almost at Nekudat HaKesef. So he says, Da she'azavti et hachomer, v'nifradeti mechevarto. I have left the physicality. כי בעוד שהמלך שהוא הכוח המתעורר והיצר המולך בגבייה יושב במסיבו ומסב בראש ומתענג בטענות בשר, even though my body is physically connected to all reality, נרדי נתן ריחו, הרגשתי ריח הנרד שלי, שהיא ריח הרוחני, וקטורת סמים, לקודש היוצא מנרדי שהוא דוד קודשי. I smell the smell coming from my creator, from my dod, from my beloved. I smell his smell even now when I'm in the physical. הרגשתי דרכי השם והנהגתו המורח להפי מריחו. I smell even here the spirituality. I've reached the attainment of even when I am eating, right? He's not talking about man dying here from right? You could have said he's detached from all his physicality. Yeah. No, but he's not talking about someone dying from hunger in this place. He's saying even when Melech b'msibo nirdir datan recho, I'm in that place where I'm not confused anymore. The body is not bringing me down and bringing me away. Inside the bodily functions, inside the places I'm in, I'm there. I smell God here too. וגם יאמר, he says also, שריח רוחניות הדוד העליון נשפע לי ממקום בקודש עד מקום גבייתי. שהיצר, and the Hashem's, the prophecy is already coming down. It's like I smell it. It's right here, right? And this is the next. This is right here where he's going to feel God.
You can smell there's something more in the physical.
I smell God. Mamash, he smells God in the physical. Okay, and that's where it is. So that if we talked about, Josh mentioned before, how is it in Judaism we do talk about the so here he's talking about who's riding who, right? That was the metaphor before. We talk about Judaism. We're not against physicality, right? Big difference between Judaism and many other religions. Physicality is not a something that is essentially at dissonance with what? Right? We don't talk that way. So that even though it sounded till now, the Malbim was definitely pulling that away, right? He's saying the body. That's the body is Shlomo, right? That's the jail, and we're trying to get out of the body. So here he's saying how you've refined your mind, you refine your speech, you refine your logic, you refine your imagination, you refine your bodily functions. Ad kedekach that already God is not hidden. He's smelled there already. In other words, most people, when they're intensely physical, then there's no smell of God there. There's no scent of God when that's happening. The more intensely physical you get, the less godly you are. He's saying at this point he's flipped the script, and in his physicality he smells Hashem everywhere as he's going to there. And so we've sort of been covered all man's aspects. His body, his mind, his thought are all refined. Now God reveals himself. Okay? And now this is what the fascinating thing the Malbim talks about now is how God reveals himself in two ways. Ready? Here, hold on. Thror. So the pasuk is Thror Hamor Dodili Ben Shaddai Yalid. My beloved is like a necklace of bisamim, right? Of more. More is another one of the incense, one of the good smells. He will lie between my breasts. That's the pasuk. Eshkol hakofer dodili becharmein gedi. It's another like it. Eshkol hakofer a eshkol. Grapes, like a thing of grapes. What's a thing of grapes called? A cluster, right? Of kofer, eshkol hakofer, which is another kind. It's like more. It's another kind of perfume. B'karmei En Gedi, in the kramim of En Gedi. So here the Malbim is going to make his a great philosophical statement, okay? So we're going to do the two psukim together, and even go into the next pasuk. All right? All these are how God appears in the world, okay? And how God really appears to man. There are two ways he does it. Thror, mevaret, I'm in pasuk Gimel. Ki hergisha reach hatov v'ruchaniyut Hashem ve'eluto mishnei tzadim. It feels Hashem's presence in two aspects. One, ready? Mitzad ha'elohit asher banefesh. This is a little surprising. Ki ha'nefesh mitzad she elohit ve'chelek mi'atzmuto yitbarach. It's like taking straight out of the Tanya, this statement, okay? The soul, the godliness in the soul. Because the soul, because it is godly, and chelek mi'atzmuto yitbarach, part of himself, yitbarach, Hashem. The soul is a piece of God. How does the Tanya say it? Chelek Eloha mimal mamash. Right? That's what the Tanya says. A part of God, mamash. Really, really, not metaphorically speaking. Our soul is a spark of God. Doma keluach asher charut alea kol inanim Elohim. It's like a tablet that has all godly writing on it. Ki achelek yidameh el hakol. The part is like the whole. Rabotai, there is something in our soul that is absolutely divine. And God can be revealed in the soul. In other words, it's not what was a little interesting, because he's more where it's not from out there that God suddenly reveals himself, but it's from inside that God reveals himself. And it's a surprising move, because it means that there's going to be another side of God. He's going to reveal himself another way also, from outside. But there's an inside revelation, a prophecy that talks from inside. Or as Chazal say, Avram Avinu, his two klayot, right? His two kidneys taught him. You guys ever see that Chazal, right? They taught him Torah, right? That's what it says there, right? That Avram Avinu were like two rabbanim. It says his two kidneys were two rabbanim. What in the world does that mean? Okay, but Chazal are talking about the ability to reach godliness from inside man. It's we'll go on and see the other way, and then we'll talk about it, because it's surprising and interesting. Okay, up until now, we sort of thought that man limited, right? We talk about the limitations of man. That's what we talk about all the time. And that to break out of that, you need a prophecy, and the motion is like this, from there. But suddenly, the Malbim breaks that thing and says, no, it's from here. Whoa. Well, see. Anyway, it's from inside. No, it comes this way, not this way. Wow. It goes from the inside out. And it's going to come from the outside in and the inside out. But one of the first way is inside out. Okay, let's go. Let's read it a little bit more. Look what he says. The moment man opens his inner eye, opens his eyes and his inner mind, v'yabit eluchot nishmato, and he'll see the tablets of his heart, or his soul, sorry. Yimtza sham mishkan Hashem ve'echalo. He will find there a Bet Mikdash. He'll find there Mishkan Hashem. Hashem dwells there. V'yabit sham kol ha'pla'im ha'elohim b'michtav Elohim charutim ala luchot. And he will see their gods in his, the right, referencing here the Luchot HaBrit, obviously, right? The writing of God scratched onto, or not scratched on, etched onto the tablets. Ve'areach Elohit sarur ve'ganuz b'tzur nafsho. The smell of God, you know where it was? That's why Ben Shaddai Yalin. In this case, it's right here between my breasts. It's right here inside of me. That's where God is revealing himself to me. מצד זה דומה דודי לצרור מור הלן בין שדי בחדרי לבבי. This is shocking. It's shocking, and it's very, I would say it's controversial to say what he just said now. It may be more understood in nowadays where we're so human-oriented, human-centric, but here he's saying one of the revelations of God is through man's own soul. Because the little part is just like the big part. It's part of God mamash. Prophecy comes from inside, Rabotai. It is something that is, in other words, it has major practical elements, this thing.
Well, if it's inside, it's always there, we just don't listen.
Chad mashmait. It doesn't happen, it doesn't appear, it's there. First of all, the godly soul is there. That means that sometimes the avodat Hashem is to listen to yourself. In other words, when someone says to you, what does your heart say to you? That's not it's a real statement. What does your heart say to you? In other words, what your heart says to you could be what God is saying to you.
Between the breasts.
Between the breasts. Okay. That's what he says. That's what he says. The live hiding between the breasts. That's what he's talking about. Mamash there. This statement, again, is a sound. Like you could have, and one could see, you are man, you're essentially wrong. You have to listen to the voice of reason, only the great prophets can bring. But here, in a sense, he's saying every man has inside him a voice of God, a part of God. All this prophecy we're talking about now, right? Again, expecting to hear it. Sometimes you have to hear it. You could hear God speaking to you from luchot levavo, as he says time and time again in this keta. It's very interesting. In other words, what are the tools to hear this voice of God? And as we're about to read, we'll read it anyway. We're not going to go. We don't have time to really go into it. The other part, the other element of where you hear God, because you hear God in two ways. What's the second one? Eshkol. Margeshet rechov ruchonoto mitzad Elohut hanimtza chutz lanefesh Elohit. You feel and sense God from what's outside the godly soul. Hamitpashetet bechol hametziut, that it exists in reality outside you. Okay? We're going to have to talk about what he talks about. He talks about the desert, how it's the metaphor here is Karmeh and Gedi, which were out in the desert. Maybe we'll go to En Gedi at some point. Have you guys ever been to En Gedi? You been there?
A few times.
Yeah. Have you ever been there?
No.
En Gedi. Yeah, we definitely have to. I thought I was trying to hope to push this to go down. This Hanukkah Shir, but apparently there's going to be Hitnadvut. There's going to be volunteer work. I imagine going to tours there. You're going to be in the desert, but not there. But here he's going to talk about God outside the soul. Why is it so important to talk about God inside the soul and God outside the soul? There's a lot to share.